Hi, Taurus. It's Susan. I'm back here to tell you a little bit about the year 2024. We're having a look at an overview here, so I'm not going into too much detail. It's just to give you the big picture for the year. And I just wanted to point out the things that will be affecting your sign if you are sun, moon, or rising sign. And this is especially the case for the rising sign or the ascendant sign in Taurus. So if it's the ascendant, this will really show up in the areas of your life that are noticeable, maybe much more clear. And also, if it's your sun, this will be about your potentially your career if you're still working, or about your sense of purpose and your sense of what you're here for, what gets you out of bed. If it's your moon, it's more internal, more emotional, more of a sense of what you're feeling or thinking as you're going through the year. So do listen for your sun, moon, and rising sign because it gives you a more complete picture. You'll find things happening on different levels of your life. So we begin January with Pluto going into Aquarius. This is really significant. On the 21st of January, Pluto joins along with the sun, which is really impactful, goes into your 10th house. So, Taurus, this is a really big moment in your life because when Pluto goes into an angular house, things change in a quite a dramatic way. Especially when it's coming in with this big tada with the sun in your 10th house at the top of your chart. This is a really impactful awakening, let's say, to what you're here for or what your ambition is or your social status and how that might change. Pluto is about transformation. It is about how you experience growth and overcome fears and overcome any obstacles to your success. It can bring success in a very strong way that can bring personal power or money. That again depends on your natal chart. But it can signify some real advances in career, or again, the impact can be felt in terms of your family life or in terms of your social status, depending on where you are in life. Again, it's really difficult to do these general readings because I need to see your chart to be able to make any sense out of it, really. So I'm giving you some really broad lines here. So this is going to be basically an advent of the next 20 years of your life. You had this between March and June of 2023. So you already had a glimpse of it. But this time as Pluto goes in, it's with the sun and it's staying much, much longer. It's staying right through till September, the 2nd of September. Pluto will retrograde back into your 9th house until November, after which on the 24th of November, it actually then goes back into your 10th house and stays permanently for 20 years. So this year in 2024, there's a wee wobble. There's a little bit of a reference back to this 9th house where basically for 15 years you already did look at having a new role in life, a new sense of purpose, a new vision perhaps on your spiritual life as well, or what you believe in life, what you believe, what is your faith. There's so many aspects that the 9th house can involve, but I would need to see for you the condition of Saturn and what that's doing in your chart to be able to tell you how that affects you personally. So you can look for that if you are aware of those things. But needless to say, big change is on the way because Pluto is squaring your first house, which is yourself. It's going to transform you in an impactful way. It's going to transform your relationships by square to the 7th house and transform the way you feel and how you engage in life through the 4th house. And that can also be on a physical plane. It's transforming your house and home as well, where you live. It might change the living situation that you have. And it's especially in the very beginning. I find that the slower outer planets, when they go into a sign, they change sign. The impact is really felt quite abruptly. It's quite strong. So get ready for big transformation. And because these are fixed energies, there can be some resistance to change. This is not the time to resist, Taurus. You really do need to go with the flow on this one, or your life will become really, really challenging. So this is an opportunity for you to reach into reach into trusting life, trusting that there is something here for you to learn throughout the entirety of your life, and it's not about clinging to the outer appearance of things. So the less you cling and the more you go into the transformation, the more you become powerful, the more you become abundant. And that's indeed what you're here for. So we're going to see, Pluto is retrograde on May the 2nd. I think I might have said a different date. I think I might have said September the 2nd. Pluto retrograde's already on May the 2nd. And so that's in your month, basically. And then it stations direct on the 11th of October, so you can follow that as well. It stations direct in Capricorn. Right. So then we have in February, we have a conjunction between Chiron and the North Node in your 12th house. So this can bring up something to do with your spiritual awareness or something that you understand about yourself, an unconscious awareness. So Chiron has been there for quite some time, since April, May of 2018. So about your birthday, somehow around that time in 2018. And so when Chiron moved in there, you would have already felt this transition in terms of your connection to yourself, your spiritual life, maybe recognizing there's some patterns of self-sabotage that you need to heal. This is particularly strong with Chiron in Aries, and all the more so in the 12th house, that there may have been issues of self-esteem or not really taking care of yourself, and this kind of brought about health issues. So if that's the case, really take care of all of those things, particularly in this phase of February, as the North Node comes across Chiron. Again, I would have to see your natal chart to be able to speak with any confidence on that. So if you don't have health issues, don't worry about it. It's not that you're going to necessarily get any, but it's just important to keep track of all of those significators. And so Chiron in the 12th can also represent your connections to people from faraway lands, people from other lifetimes, ancestors, for example. And there may be something that you become aware of with Chiron there, in terms of your own healing adventure, your own understanding. Chiron represents something that we're understanding from childhood, things that we've learned through our experience of childhood or our experience of some kind of, especially in Aries, humiliation or feeling not supported, feeling put down. And so this can just bring your awareness to that and let you heal that. So it is about healing. It's about overcoming. It can be painful as you're going through it. But no, just like if you cut your finger, as soon as you cut your finger, your body's working to heal that. And it's the same thing with Chiron. It's the healing comes from the very wounding. So it's two sides of the same coin. We can't be healing if we don't recognize the wounding that's there. And then, of course, in March, we have an eclipse, and that eclipse is happening in your 6th house. And that, again, has a reference to health and healing. It's about your everyday experience of life. There can be some release or awareness of some obligations or some kind of challenges that you may have had, something to do with your everyday schedule or your everyday habits or your everyday work. That you're letting go. There's some kind of resolution or a letting go with the South Node eclipse there on the 25th of March. And then we have a total solar eclipse in your 12th house on the 8th of April, and that's at 19 degrees. And now where the North Node is at the beginning of 2024 and where Chiron is in the exact conjunction in February, and even Chiron at the beginning of 2024, it goes between 19 and 15 degrees, or because the nodes move backwards. So Rahu's moving back from 19 to 15 degrees between January and the eclipse in April. So everything happening around those degrees is very, very significant. And if you have anything in Aries or in Libra between that 19th and 15th degree, give or take another 2 degrees, on either side, or 2 or even 3 degrees on either side, is going to be really dramatically affected, because that Chiron is exactly conjoined the sun and moon at this new moon total solar eclipse on the 8th of April at 19 degrees. And it's a big stellium in your 12th house. So something really significant happening around these 12th house issues. And again, I would really need to see what's going on in your chart. You would want to look at what's happening with Mars, where in your natal chart, where Mars is, what that represents for you, and a number of other things that we would need to understand to really be able to give you a specific reading. But just know that your 12th house is really lit up in April. And then Jupiter and Uranus are, and we have a Mercury retrograde at the same time. So all the way through April, we've got Mercury retrograde up until the 25th of April at the same time. So lots of reflection, lots of recollection, lots of going back over deep, intimate things. This is also the house of, for Taurus rising, especially, this is the house of hidden things and intimacy. And so if there's any shenanigans going on behind the scenes, Taurus, this could be where you find things coming to a head, shall we say. So beware. Integrity is always the key word here. With Rahu, you will be exposed to something, if anything is going on that shouldn't be going on in terms of your personal commitments, that can be exposed in that period of time. Again, I would have to see your natal chart, so don't freak out if you're good boys and girls. This is not necessarily the case for you. So Jupiter conjunct Uranus in your first house, Taurus. This is the highlight of the year for you. Taurus is really blessed in April and May, a fabulous new start. So this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is actually a long-term thing. So although it's happening, especially on the 21st, it's really focused through the whole of April. There is a strong conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. But it's starting a new cycle that is 14 years long. The last time this happened would have been 2010, and that was happening in the last degree of Pisces in your 11th house and in the first degree of Aries in your 12th house. I think it went 2 or 3 times across that border. But this is the once in a lifetime that we get this transit through your first house. And so something really significant is happening. It's ruled by Venus, of course, your ruler. And so you want to keep track of Venus as this is all going through. Venus is in your 12th as this is happening. It's something that you will, and Venus, by the way, is moving through your first house in May. After this conjunction happens, Venus then goes into your first house, which is absolutely fabulous, and always wonderful to have Venus in the first house, but even more so for Taurus, because that's your ruler and she brings you immense benefits. So May is just wonderful. A major transformation, great upliftment in terms of your sense of self, your potential, the way people see you. Again, I would have to see your natal chart to see how that might pan out for you. But overall, I'd say this is going to bring you something unexpected and really beneficial. So Uranus is moving from 19 degrees till 27 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything in Taurus in your first house, or if your sun or your moon is placed, or other planets are placed between that 19-degree point and the 27-degree point, it's an opportunity for you to really change, to really see things from a different perspective. And those new degrees, so Uranus made it up to 23 degrees in 2023, but in 2024, the new degrees are 24 to 27 degrees. So that's quite powerful. And that will also be sextiling Neptune in your 11th house. And so that sextile to Neptune is going to be extremely pleasant as well. It's going to potentially bring in some new people, new experiences through groups and associations, connections with people that can be quite beneficial. Be careful if there's something to do with money. Again, I would have to see your chart, because that can also bring in something that might be deceptive. So again, I would have to see that, but sextile is very supportive usually. What else have we got? And that Neptune is moving itself between 25 and 29 in 2024, 25 and 29 degrees of Pisces, with the 28th and the 29th degree, the new transits for 2024 So we've already seen Neptune between 25 and 27 degrees in 2023. And so, yeah, and so with this wonderful, exciting sort of energy, let's call it April and May, the 2 months together in your first house, you're really likely to grow in tremendous new ways because you also have Pluto in the 10th, and that is something that's already bringing you a heightened sense of what you're here for or what it is that you want to do. So this will just give you extra juice, extra boosting when you have Jupiter in your first. Then you have a Jupiter moving into your second house, and Jupiter moves into your second house on the 25th of May, accompanied by the Sun and Venus. So there's actually an exact conjunction on the 23rd of May with your ruler Venus and Jupiter at the very end of your, at the very beginning of your second house. And Jupiter is conjunct the Sun on the 24th. So no, that's the very end of your first, isn't it? So that's going to be at the very end of your first house. Jupiter, Venus on the 23rd and Jupiter, Sun on the 24th. Then Jupiter moves into your second house on the 25th, and there we are. And on the 21st, on the 24th, we have this exact sextile between Jupiter and Neptune. So an absolutely amazing sort of couple of months there where this can be deeply romantic energy. It can be extremely visionary energy, very, very uplifting. If you can go for a holiday around that time, celebrate your birthday, celebrate after your birthday, celebrate. So take advantage of these big shakeups in this period of your life, Taurus, because sometimes you can get stuck, a little bit stuck in your ways, and really look forward to these things and say, okay, I'm willing now to open up to something looking different in my life and allowing this different thing to happen in my life and not freak out that something's changing. Okay, so this is your opportunity, Taurus. So Jupiter, as I mentioned, moves into Gemini, and then it's going to trine Pluto. So from your second house to your 10th house, Jupiter is trining Pluto. So if you're still active in work, for example, or if you're an active investor, or if you've got family obligations, there's going to be something here that is giving another boost, because that boost is gives you a feeling of can do, it's a trine, it gives you a really strong sense of possibility from two houses that are quite supportive. The second and the 10th are money houses in the sense of, let's say, your investment and your social status or your commitment to work. So work issues can really flourish at that time. And so, yeah, especially because Venus and the Sun are there in the mix of that trine. It's just an amazing opportunity. If you want to launch something, again, it would be good to look at your own chart, check out what's going on with your other planets, how they're being affected. But this would be really interesting times for investment, for launching a new business, for establishing something new, marriage, for example, this kind of thing. All very good. Again, don't take my word for that. Don't write back and say your marriage failed or whatever, because I would need to see your natal chart. Then we have Saturn going through your 11th house along with that Neptune, and Saturn will be stationing retrograde on the 30th of June. So basically between January, where Saturn is at 3 degrees, and where Saturn stations retrograde on the 30th of June, it goes up till 19. So it's stationing at 1925 of Pisces. So that 3rd degree up until the 7th degree, Saturn has already done in 2023. But from that 8th degree up until 19 degrees, it's all new. So you can check where Pisces is in your chart, in that 11th house for Taurus rising, and see where there is something that is going to be challenged, where you might need to rework something or understand taking responsibility for something, reaching out into some aspect of wisdom, and especially with the rising sign Saturn in the 11th, can take on a role of social advisor or social pillar it's the energy initially can feel like a restriction. It feels like I don't belong. I nobody likes me. Going to the garden to eat worms, and then with Saturn in the 11th, you overcome that. You gain in maturity, and you recognize that there's now this opportunity for you to show up for other people in a responsible way. Saturn going through the 11th also will clear out relationships and associations and connections, and even your email subscription list where you're like, I'm so done with this. This is not my people. These are not my peeps. I don't want to be connecting to this energy anymore. This is not the future I envisage for myself. So your future is being forecasted, but there's a lot of requirement for you to change, a requirement for you to take responsibility around that at the same time. Yeah, and then the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune starts to intensify, and it goes within a 10-degree orb before Saturn retrogrades again at 19 degrees. And so you start to feel that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which we'll talk more about in 2025, because that's going to be exact then. But it's already something that is shifting in terms of your sense of the future, your sense of what you believe is possible. This can also have reference to your earnings, for example, especially for Taurus. Rising Saturn in the 11th house, that is the house of what you earn from the thing that you do. And because Saturn rules your 10th house, that is going to be money earned through hard work. So that's Frank Clifford has this fantastic saying about Saturn, which is, you may not get what you pay for, but you pay for everything you get. So this is you, Taurus, with Saturn in the 11th. I love that one. Right, and then in July we have a Pluto in a degree-based out of sign trine throughout July and August with that with your, what are we looking at, with your Jupiter. So that's a really interesting, within a 5-degree orb. So that's again, there's going to be quite a lot of positive action, positive energy that can bring up also. Pluto is trining Uranus as well to a broader degree. Pluto is trining Uranus. Yeah, so it can be very interesting times between your career and what you stand for, your values, yourself. We also have in August the very first Jupiter square Saturn from the 2nd house to your 11th house. So there's something definitely happening around money, around your values, around what it is who it is you show up with in those ways. And the first time is the 19th of August. We get it again on the 24th of December. And so that's something I will obviously do more about. In December, it's at 14 degrees. And in August, it's at 17 to 18 degrees, both Pisces and Gemini. So if you have any planets there, that would be very important for you. Now, Saturn is supportive for Taurus this year, so don't fear these things, but just recognize it might be feeling like a push and a pull. It might feel like you want to get this thing going, you want to invest, you want to do these things, but something keeps pulling you back, and that's what that Jupiter square Saturn will be doing. But it really just requires more concentration and effort. It's not that it's not possible. It just requires more seriousness. So you can do that. You're a Taurus. You can put the elbow grease in and get the results. On the 4th of September, we have Mars moving into Cancer. That's your 3rd house. And Mars is going to be staying for a really long time in Cancer. It's actually there all the way through till April of 2025, but it's going in and out of Cancer towards the end of the year. So it's actually going into Leo, and then at 6 degrees of Leo on the 5th of December, Mars will station retrograde. Now, that point, 6 degrees of Leo, is roughly where on the 25th of January, we have the Leo full moon. So connect the dots between January and December, there's something that you're going to require attention. So whatever is brought to your attention, let's say in January, is going to be needing your attention in December. It's going to be something that you'll need to take action on, or you might want to contemplate how to do that differently. So take some notes and compare by the end of the year. Or if you're like me, you'll take the notes and lose the notes, and then and then have to go through the whole thing at the end of the year. Either way, just note that there's a connection here between that full moon on the 25th of January in Leo at 5 degrees and the Mars stationing retrograde. It's going to call in something of January when it goes retrograde in December. So that basically Mars is also only leaving Leo finally in June. So there's like this almost 10-month period where you're going to have Mars in your third and fourth house. So there's a lot going on in terms of connections, communications, extended family, your neighbors, your neighborhood, where you live, the actual physical home, a physical house and home. I would need to see Mars in your natal chart to see how this will affect you. Equally, I would need to know the condition of your moon and sun in your natal chart. Again, if it's a Taurus sun, then this is a square to your sun. So to have a look at all of these aspects in your natal chart to understand personally how that's going to affect you. When Mars goes through the third house, be careful of being crabby. Don't be mean. Can be Mars in the third house can be sarcastic or cutting or create tension. There can be some tensions in the family or the extended family. There can be some tensions in the neighborhood or with the people around you. It can also be fantastically motivating for learning new skills, for learning new ways of doing things, for business, if you're a business-oriented person, especially if you're working for yourself, for learning a new language. There's an enormous amount of motivation there too. With Mars in the third, there's a lot of dynamism. You're going to be really busy around that time, or there will be a lot going on around that time. And again, I would need to see how that relates to your natal chart. So did I mention that there's an opposition then? No, I haven't mentioned that yet. So that part of that Mars story includes an opposition between Mars and Pluto. And that opposition will be at 29 degrees and 45 minutes of Cancer and Capricorn. And so that's going to be between your third house and your ninth house. So pulling in the third house and ninth house where Pluto was for 15 years. At the very tail end of that now, it's almost like saying, did you get the message? Ninth house, your purpose, your sense of what you believe, what is important to you. And then the third house, how are you using that? What are you doing with that, with the Mars there? So I would again have to see your natal chart to see how that pans out for you, but just know around the beginning of November, there can be some tension, and I'd say globally we'll experience that quite impactfully. At the same time as that opposition, we have Venus, your ruler, in your eighth house in opposition to Jupiter in Gemini. And so there can be some money issues coming here, and that may be what this Mars-Pluto opposition is about, that there's some kind of money tension or money issues coming through. It's not necessarily going to be bad because it's Venus and Jupiter in opposition. There can be a wee bit of extravagance even. So be careful of that, or that you might even be blessed with some money coming in from somebody else. It is your ruler in the eighth house. The eighth house is not super easy. So also be careful with Venus, your ruler in the eighth house, of any kind of hidden transactions or things that are not working in your favor. Again, I would need to see your chart to see that. We have the first eclipse ever in Pisces, since 18 and a half years ago, the first eclipse in the new eclipse axis of Pisces and Virgo, and that's going to be happening on the 18th of September. And so that 18th September eclipse is happening in your 11th house. That is at 25 degrees of Pisces. So that's where we find Neptune at the beginning of 2024. So that can reflect the movement of Neptune in this phase of the first 9 months of 2024. So notice that it is certainly conjunct Neptune very powerfully. And so that's something that you will experience as perhaps a new set of goals or a new vision for your life, new groups of people, new ways of connecting with people that can, again, potentially relate to money or how you earn money. It's with Jupiter in your third house, sorry, in your second house at that time. Um, it can be about the money or investments that you have, and there's some connection there with that. Again, I would need to see your natal chart, but that eclipse for the first time in that Pisces Virgo axis will be pulling in your 11th house, ruled by Jupiter in the second house. Then you have an eclipse, the Libra eclipse, which is a solar annular eclipse. It means the ring of light is around the moon because the moon doesn't completely cover the eclipse. And that's on the 2nd of October. And that is at 10 degrees of Libra, and that's in your 6th house. And so we're back again with the story of potentially health or whatever might be affecting your health here, or your everyday life, as I mentioned earlier. So that will be the last eclipse in that axis for you on the 2nd of October. The 12th and 6th house doesn't mean that the nodes are still going to be there, but it's a new ball game for 2024. You are really focusing quite a lot on your health, quite a lot on your perhaps spiritual health, quite a lot on issues of who is taking care of you, how you do your everyday life, and changing your everyday life structure in a way that needs to be adapted to your current needs. All right, so Taurus, I think all in all, a really wonderful year, fast-paced change. It may not be to your liking because you might find that a little too much for yourself, but be open to change, be open to growth. It's coming whether you like it or not, so you might as well embrace it and recognize that that is how we flow through life, is by growing. So enjoy 2024, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video.